We are back live with another episode of PB Betting College Football Podcast on YouTube, X, and Spotify. Mr. Paisley, it's a new year, first time of 2026 that we're doing this thing. So, how was your New Year's, sir?
It was good. Yeah, New Year, new us here, Case. Yeah, it was fun watching the games. One on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day was a little banged up. Got to catch some of the games, a little hungover, but thankfully the first two games on New Year's Day were not too exciting, and then the nightcap game was a absolute classic, really fun. We're gonna get into all those and break them down here, but yeah, pretty good. Good start to the new year here, Case. How was yours?
It's also good, Paisley. It's always great when you get to spend it. Back home. We were back in Pennsylvania to see everybody. It was always we had some special guests. Some people fly across country the last couple of weeks to visit us. So it was very good. And you're right. It was nice that New Year's Day the games weren't that exciting early on. I was able to you're able to sleep in a little bit, some recovery from New Year's Eve. So I think maybe it was as bad as the games were. Maybe it was intentional just from the viewer point of view.
Yeah, no, it was good to see some fan members. Shout out Mr. Scooty coming in from Colorado all the way out there. It was fun seeing him, and yeah, getting to catch up in person with us too was always a good time. But yeah, hopefully everyone had a good time and ready to get into these playoff games here, the second semifinals here. It's going to be interesting.
So how we're going to break this episode out, if you're listening, we're going to do just a quick recap on the quarterfinal games to start it off. And then we're going to do just a quick couple of minutes talking about who we think has won the playoffs so far and lost the playoffs so far. So out of the first round quarterfinals, just a little winners and losers segment here as we get to the semifinals. And then the back half of the episode, we'll just break down the two final semifinal games here we have. So that being said, we may as well just roll the tape back all the way to New Year's Eve, Miami and Ohio State. A shocking result, I think, to say the least here. Miami pulling off the upset, 24-14. Not a lot of people thought that was going to happen, including us on the podcast. I think we had the under. The game went similar to how we thought it might go, I think, with it just being low scoring. I mean, it was I don't think many people thought Ohio State would have 0 points at halftime, but low scoring defensive battle. Miami got a big play at the end of the second quarter, that interception to able to, really propel them. And really that was definitely the key to the game. I think they pull off the upset and they're here in the semifinal, a big surprise. But what do you think, Paisley, Miami and Ohio State?
Yeah, this was a good game. It was a good game New Year's Eve night. Was shocking. I really thought even throughout the whole game, Ohio State was just going to come back. They got a little mojo there coming out of halftime. They were starting to really utilize that pass game, but it was the Miami D-line that really dominated, and that's been the story the last two games here in the playoffs for them. The defense played pretty well down the stretch. They got out to that lead. That's the thing with this Miami team. If they could get out to a lead, they get their pass rushers going. They don't have to rely on Carson Beck throwing the ball, and they could run it. So that's going to be something to keep in forward when we break down the semifinal game, then potentially if they make it to the national championship. But this team likes to play from ahead. They have a good script in their head. We haven't really seen them down or behind in a lot of games, so it would be interesting, especially those two losses that they had midway through the year. They were kind of down, had to chase a little bit, and it did not work out very well from them. So I was just more shocked at the Ohio State offensive output here. I thought it would be we knew it was going to be tough, but they couldn't get any ground game going at all. Sayin was under pressure all night. The offensive line really was holding up. Now, if I think that pick six was the entire game. It was 7-0. Miami made a nice drive, deserved those 7 points, and then Ohio State was driving down, got all the way down to I think it was like 30-35, and then just a terrible read. It was a bad snap. He kind of threw it late, pick six, and that kind of just ended the game, and it was hard to get back into contention with the defense playing that good of Miami. So it was just a bad start for Ohio State, couldn't overcome it. Very disappointing season for the Buckeyes here, after all those expectations coming off the championship last year. Losing the last two games like they did, just got completely out physical and out man, which is something that Ohio State's been trying to work on for a while. So that was not good to see there. A lot of wasted talent just gone down the drain there for Ohio State. But it was a good, clean win for Miami. They just didn't make a ton of mistakes. They're not going to wow you in their offensive game. It's nothing special. The defense likes to muck it up and be physical. Haven't really been tested, like I said, and been down early in a game. So I'm still interested to see how it's going to play out against Ole Miss in the next round. But definitely some questions surrounding Ohio State here with this one. Didn't have the $25 million roster that they had last year, and definitely a disappointing end to it. And the defense I thought played well, but just couldn't overcome some of the pick six. Miami, if you look at the stats, really didn't wow anybody or didn't really do anything crazy, but they're getting the wins, and you got to give them credit. It doesn't look superly impressive, but they got a close victory against Texas A&M where they struggled offensively, and they get another win here where they got off to a fast start, and Ohio State just couldn't really recover. So good win for Miami, but wasn't like they just ultrally dominated both sides of the ball. I think their D-line really won them this game, and that's something that they've just been riding here late in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's good points. And also keep in mind that Miami also coming off of the big win against A&M. Ohio State was on the bye. When this game happened, I think they were the fifth team in a row to lose dating back to last year. On if you have the bye, you kind of come out flat. And, there might actually be something there. I don't know. Of course, it didn't affect Indiana in any way, but there's got to be something said about that because it was just very surprising result. And and even just more on the Ohio State side, because we'll get to Miami a little bit again in about the preview when we do it. But Ohio State, it's got to be a disappointment. And I'm happy at the same time for all the fans and everybody online that thought this Ohio State team was better than last year, and they're just gonna push you around. They got the two best receivers, Julian saying they're going to be able to throw over any secondary, and their defense is better than last year, and all this hype. Part of that makes me happy. I know, Jared, you're not rooting for Miami by any means, but I don't have as much against them right now, personally. But as much as I've disliked Miami historically and will continue to do so, I was happy to see this happened to Ohio State. I don't think anybody really thought it was going to happen on their side. I think maybe there was some, thought in the back of their mind, but I think overall they thought they were going to go in and dominate this game. And this was just one of those results that so many experts just totally missed it. Do I think if these two teams play 10 times that, Miami's going to win this thing 7-8 times? No, I think the other way. I think Ohio State would still win this game super majority of the time. But Ohio State came out flat. Like you said, the pick six kind of sealed it. They couldn't get anything big going in the second half, and Miami just kind of clawed their way, not really looking that impressive. I think Carson Beck only had 130 yards or something, and we knew that the defenses were going to be big. But stunning result, in my opinion, especially on the Ohio State offensive side.
Yeah, the teams coming off the bye started super slow. And even Indiana that had a good game, they started off, I think it was 0-0 or 3-0 at the end of the first quarter too, until they got going a little bit and crushed Alabama. We'll get to that. But yeah, these teams off these byes were really sluggish, really slow starting, and it caught up with some of them. And then, we're going to get Texas Tech here in a little bit, but I called that out on the preview podcast. I said, look at Ohio State and Texas Tech schedules, and they were not overly impressive. And then now when they face their two toughest opponents, and then Texas Tech faced Oregon, it just didn't even look close. And it's so strength of schedule, who you play during the season, I think really does matter. And that's where you got to give Miami credit for going out and scheduling Notre Dame and, playing, some of the tougher-ish teams. Definitely Texas A&M helped them in that game right before in the first round. But, being battle-tested is so crucial. And I think that's something you could do in the NFL playoffs and even now in college. But some of these teams that have these easy schedules, because the conferences has gotten so large, you're just not playing some of the top tier teams. And then when you finally face a team that you haven't played, it's oh God, and you just get overwhelmed. So that's just something I'm keeping in mind here going forward.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good point. I think it shows, teams are going to have to figure out their schedule. And yeah, that's a good point about not always being able to control, your schedule. If, teams in the Big Ten could only play, whatever schedule they're given. So granted, there's 18 teams. There's a good chance that a couple teams play, the bottom 7-8 teams. I mean, same thing with Texas A&M. We found out that they were 11-0, but they also played the entire bottom half of the SEC. So I think that does matter. And with that being said, we might as well jump right into the Orange Bowl here. Oregon 23, Texas Tech 0. I don't want to say a stunning result. I think a lot of people picked Oregon to win, pretty convincingly, but they looked really ugly in this game. They, held Texas Tech. I think Morton only had 130 yards passing as well. But Oregon didn't look like Oregon. They kind of won this game ugly. They, 6-0, I think, at halftime. They end up getting the shutout. but not convincing in any way, in my opinion. But they find a way to get the win. And also just another quick point on this. Oregon, though they played James Madison, they did have a game last week. Texas Tech, same thing, didn't have the game. They come out, they do absolutely nothing offensively. Not saying, that's for sure, but just another disappointing, kind of ugly sort of game.
Yeah, this one was a grinder, and I did full-heartedly take a nap during this game in the second half because it was not a lot going on. This was my favorite play of the second round, I guess you could say, the playoffs. Loved Oregon in this matchup. We were all over them. Because, again, I just didn't trust Texas Tech. I feel like they did not play a good schedule. I think the Big 12 is super weak. I thought Oregon was more battle-tested. They were getting healthy. Now, I thought the defense played phenomenal. I thought they really dominated the game for Oregon. But, yeah, you're right. The offense was very clunky. They missed a lot of opportunities. It was very frustrating having a lot of units on Oregon, and it just felt like they were dominating the time possession, dominating the turnovers, dominating field position, and it was 6-0 at halftime. Like, that at least should have been 14 or 17-0. So they had a lot of missed fourth downs, a lot of self-inflicted turnovers. Snapping issues was a problem in this game with the center handoffs. It was just a very, very sloppy game. Some you think you'd see in like the first or second game of the season or like a preseason NFL game. So it was very interesting. There was a couple missed blocks from Texas Tech that were just embarrassing, and the quarterback was getting lit up. So, it was very uneventful, very defensive heavy in this game, but got off to a great start with a lot of units won here on this one. So that was happy until Georgia ruined everything late at night, but we'll get to that one later. Bear Morton had to pass a lot in this game, and he still only had 130 yards, 2 picks. So that was not impressive. And Oregon, too, 3.8 yards per play. So not something to write home about. I thought the Texas Tech defense did show up pretty well with their phenomenal defensive line. I thought they did a great job. Initially, they were batting a lot of balls down. They were making it difficult on Dante Moore. But, again, that offense was just pitiful. They could not do anything all day for Texas Tech. So Oregon did get the win. They finally woke up a little bit, finally punched a couple in, and took advantage of some of those turnovers. But definitely, like you said, not a completely one where you're feeling great if you're a Ducks fan.
Yeah, and if you told me that Texas Tech would start the game with a punt, an interception, a missed field goal, a fumble, and a punt, that would be their first half, I would say the score would be 35-0 Oregon, right, or 42-0. So right. Oregon did enough to cash in late, but certainly could have been a lot worse. I mean, Oregon played ugly too, is kind of the point that we're making. And also, I remember talking a week ago about how would Texas Tech respond in a situation where they are down, because they've dominated in virtually every single game they played this year, except for the one without their quarterback. And I guess the answer is just nothing. They just won't do anything because it was such an ugly game. And then, as bad as the first half was, the second half was just as bad. Punt, fumble, downs, interception, downs, end of game. I mean, that is just abysmal offensive performance. And, I don't think by any means Oregon has this, crazy elite defense. I think they're really good. I think they're good, but I don't really think they're, top 2, top 3 in the country here. So very surprising kind of how it played out. But like you said, as far as the margin, this was, I think, the one of the 4 that we really just got right. Basically, I think the other 2 were misses. So.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a little bit, but kind of whiffed on the next game coming up. But time of possession, this one, 38 to 22 minutes. So Oregon, their defense was on the field, Texas Tech the whole game, and they really did keep playing. They were playing hard, so got to give them credit there. But the Texas Tech head coach who was calling out Notre Dame and calling out, we got to play a conference, like, sign me up for the Big 12. I'll play that and go 12-0 every year, because that was a bad showing for the Big 12 there in Texas Tech.
Totally agree. All right, might as well move on here. Rose Bowl, granddaddy of them all, Paisley. I don't know what to say about this game. Just an absolute one-sided, dominating game. This reminded me of when Oregon and Ohio State played last year, when Ohio State just rolled them. Very kind of similar type of game. I mean, and when I say that, I mean just very one-sided. I mean, this game was over by halftime. It felt that way, even though it was only 17-0. I mean, Alabama, or should I say Indiana, just absolutely controlled this. 407 yards to 193. I don't know when the last time that happened to Alabama in a playoff or really any game like that. I know they came out really ugly against Georgia, but this was that times 2. I mean, Indiana with 3-star players all over the field going against Alabama's, 4 and 5-star young guys. I mean, I heard it so much this week, and I'm kind of fixated on it too. When you see some of these, talent gaps, you're like, well, just because Indiana's really good, even though this team's 9-3 or 8-4, they're more talented. And Indiana is still a little bit of a weird team. I think they're really good. I think they deservedly are the odds favorite to win the national championship just based on how they played so far in the last few games. But they also have, that game against Iowa. They have the game against Penn State, who was really bad at the time. So I think there's still some questions there. But just as far as this game and this game only, I don't think anyone really saw this coming. Maybe a couple people, but I couldn't believe this result. 38-3, just not even a touchdown here by Alabama. Total domination by Indiana here.
Yeah, this was a tough one for us, and I'll take most of the blame because I hopped on the Alabama train when you were riding them all season, so that was completely my fault. Yeah, this one was bad. It was just right from the start. I mean, right from the start, Alabama, I think they sacked Mendoza like once or twice in the first drive, and then they just did not touch him the rest of the game. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, like you said, just complete domination. I mean, 6.2 yards per play is insane for any game, even if you're playing an FCS team like the first week or two of the season. But to do it against Alabama here, I mean, it was just complete mismatch. It's crazy. I still can't get over that Indiana just dominated Alabama. All the fans and all the previous coaches, Nick Saban, like, oh, there's no way, you guys don't know Alabama, we're going to crush them. This really put on the map. But I think it just goes to showcase that times are changing for sure in college football, and the coach is so important. Like, I just can't get over the job Kurt Signet's doing. I know everybody's, giving him his praises as well-deserved, but like, I think it is actually insane how in 2 years he has turned this program around this much. To look this good, this dominant. It's not like they're like squeaking by or getting lucky with these. Like, they're dominating some of these teams. And, the Ohio State game, the Big Ten championship too, was another one that could have gone either way, but really made a statement here in this one. I'm very interested to see how they play now in this second round game. But this was just an utter domination here in this one. Like you said, kind of like that Oregon Rose Bowl game, Ohio State last year, just right from the jump, second quarter, all right, it's done. There's no chance in this. Ty Simpson, I thought, he'd have a good game here. He really did not. Alabama's broken. I mean, we'll see what happens next year, Case. I still know that Kalen DeBoer, I think he's staying, obviously, at Alabama, but it's definitely not easy. I don't know if he's the right fit. Ty Simpson's talking about leaving now. A lot of players are transferring out. So it's a weird situation with Alabama where they're always going to have the talent. They always have that tradition now because they won so much. But you saw here in this game, like you said, the talent gap was there, and they have the 5-star guys and they have the talent. So what is not working to even compete with Indiana? Not even like, oh, we were close and lost a close one. It looked like two completely different teams, like a varsity and JV team. So it kind of caught up with Alabama. I think they were very fortunate with the Oklahoma game last week, and that was something that watching that Georgia game and stuff, it's like, oh, maybe Alabama was that bad, because now like this was just, they snuck into the playoffs. Everybody was bagging on them. They won that first game against Oklahoma. Everyone's like, wait, like, and myself included, like, okay, maybe this team is, legit. Maybe they're playing some good ball. And then it came back to, don't let one game fool you. And that's from trying to just take everything in the whole season and everything, not just what happened last week. But this was a complete whiff on my part. And I do apologize to everyone out there that I lost some money. I lost some money myself on this one too. But did not think Indiana was that good. They're just so fundamentally sound, and it's nothing crazy that they do. They just run it right downhill. It's very zone or a gap scheme block, and they just block the guy in front of you. But they are just so good at what they do. They simplify their game plan, and they're just very, very, very good at what they do, even though it's a simple way of playing. And I'm very interested to see how far they go. I think they should be the favorite, like you said, with the 4 teams remaining. Ohio State, Georgia now out. So it's definitely a clear path for Indiana football to maybe hoist a trophy, which is crazy. But that's going to be a crazy, crazy story if they can get there that far.
Yeah, it is insane to actually think about that. It very well could be a reality, because usually when we get in these situations, there is, a clear, usually like that Georgia 1 seed or Ohio State, and they're all gone. Those teams have lost. It is a wide open path. There's 4 teams that I think any of them, it would be pretty stunning in some way to say, just weeks ago they were going to win it. Maybe Oregon would be the kind of the one where it was like mid-season where it was like, okay, that won't be surprising. But I think as far as for sure the other 3, it certainly is surprising. And yeah, I mean, Signetti's done obviously a great job. I had this conversation with someone the other day that I think Signetti, if he were to win a national championship here at Indiana this season, would have a legitimate argument for being considered like one of the greatest coaches. Like, and as crazy as that sounds, for just having a couple of years in this book, but where he's won, if he wins it here, he has to win it. But I'm just saying, we've never really seen anything like this, and yeah, it does go to show you that to some extent, if you get a good coach in the right spot, you can turn things around regardless of your talent on the team. I mean, obviously you need playmakers, but you got to be the coach is I think more important maybe now than some people thought before.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking the teams left because I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were talking about Dan Lanning and Cristobal in their 5th years now. Like they're finally getting their teams, their guys they recruited, and even them took them 4 or 5 years to get to a Final Four spot or even a potential championship. And you look at Signetti doing it in 2. There's some other coaches, Lane Kiffin's even another one that has been doing it for a while and just never got it to this level. So you start stacking it up. It is like it's not like they went to the Pac-12 and like they're beating Ohio State, they're beating Iowa, Oregon, like on the road in Autzen, like they're humbling Alabama in the playoff. Like they are doing it at an impressive rate. So it's not like they're doing it an easy route or group of 5 where they stack it and get the automatic bid or something like that. They're doing it the hard way. And in 2 years, I just think that's something that is never, ever been done. And we'll see. I'm kind of rooting for them. We'll see in this next game. I kind of do like Oregon a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a crazy, crazy turnaround if you could do this in 2 years. And I agree. I don't think people realize how insane this is.
Yeah. With that being said, we may as well go to the Sugar Bowl. Great game, probably the best game of the entire quarterfinals, a thrilling game, went back and forth, a ton of points, 30 points here between these two teams in the fourth quarter. Ole Miss gets it done, 39-34 over Georgia. A ton of yards in this game, ton of offense, a lot of excitement. There were multiple lead changes here in the fourth quarter when it looked like Ole Miss had the game locked up 10, and Georgia came storming back. They answered, 10 unanswered themselves, tied it up. Just a thrilling game. Of course, the safety was the last play, so it was really 36-34, and then that happened. But crazy game. We were also on Georgia. I was on Georgia. I thought this was probably my most favorite pick of the week. And it turns out, Ole Miss gets it done. They win outright. They look good doing it. Of course, they also got some big news this week with some of their players, re-signing back to their university, contract negotiations, which that's another story for the offseason. But nonetheless, here we go. Ole Miss, they get it done, 39-34. We all know the deal with the coach. They look good. I mean, I don't know what else to say. There's problems defensively for sure, but that offense is cooking on all cylinders possible at the right time.
Yeah, that is the day and age of college football now, and it's so annoying. Yeah, the re-signing. It's like you were there. You're like, it's just annoying. But college football might just fall off the face of the earth because it's such a mess right now. But in this game specifically, yeah, almost 500 yards of offense for Ole Miss. I mean, they just caught a heater at the end of the game, and Chambliss was just on fire. Sometimes when those QBs are in a zone, a sport like football, where they could really just take over. I mean, some of his scrambling, the ball placement, he's flipping it underhand. Like he was just on another level as some of the best quarterbacking I've seen all year in any college game. So he was on fire. It's tough to beat that. Georgia was trying all they could. They were running the ball pretty effectively. Gunnar Stockton had a good game, just a couple 3-and-outs, and then some questionable calls. I just wasn't. Not that Ole Miss like out-coached Georgia, I thought, but just Georgia kind of really shot themselves in the foot with some of their play calling late on 4th down, and the fake punt where they ran the punting team off after like a TV timeout when they just faked it the drive before, which was a nice call, that they got the fake punt, got the first down, but then they tried to do another like fake thing, then they ran a play, the offensive line wasn't ready, and then Stockton got sacked, I think, or just threw it away. Like it was just a mess. So and then they turned it over, and that was kind of the game. It was a 3-point. They were down 3, turned it over on their own like 30. Ole Miss went up 10 with I think it was 10 or 11 minutes left, and that's when you knew it was kind of over. So just some head-scratching calls from Georgia. Their defense was playing really well down the stretch, but then just didn't see it. You got the old Georgia defense where the pass rush wasn't there. They were getting beat downfield with those inexperienced corners, and Ole Miss just got to give them a lot of credit. I was just not expecting this at all like you, Case. I thought this was the one game for sure that even on the spread, but the money line, there's no way they're going to lose this one. They have to advance to the next round. But Ole Miss was very impressive, and they deservedly so won that game. Like, there was nothing fluky about that. They really did outplay Georgia, I thought, for even the first half. They really kept it close. They were settling for field goals. Georgia, that Ole Miss kicker hit like 2 or 3 50-yard field goals. He was on fire. So if you could have a kicker in college football, I feel like that is a very like underlying advantage you could have, because in the NFL, everybody has kickers that could kick really far, 50, 55 plus. But in college, I mean, because knowing somebody that watched Notre Dame games every single year, every game this year, they couldn't even kick extra points from 15 yards out. So if you have a guy that could kick from 50, and Georgia had a good kicker too, like that's such a weapon. And especially in these close games like that, that really kept them at bay, because if they weren't making those field goals, Georgia would have been up like 10, 14 points. But that field goal kicker really did keep them in range there. And there's just not a lot of good ones out there. So I think like that could be a really big underlying, advantage for some of these teams, and especially in these playoff games where you need special teams, you need kickers. I think that really could come into handy. But I love this Ole Miss team. I want them to keep it up. I want to keep going, but we'll see what happens here. But Georgia, very disappointing. Again, another early exit from the college football playoffs. So this new format with the 12 teams case is not really helping out the likes of Georgia and Alabama, when it used to be the 4 teams. Nobody was getting paid except their players. Now it's starting to fall off a little bit, and now they're kind of getting booted and exited a little bit earlier than they would like.
Yeah. Talk about kickers, Paisley. I think if any team really needed a kicker right now, it'd be Illinois State. I don't know if you
I did see that, yeah.
FCS National Championship. Little shout out to that game, an all-time classic, very classic like the Georgia Ole Miss, but came down to a block field goal. Montana State looked like they were going to win then. They took a sack. Then they, go to overtime. Illinois State retakes the lead. It's like they're going to win, and then another just ugly snap. I mean, it wasn't just the kicker's fault, but just ugly snap, bad kick blocked, and Illinois State lost the national title based off an extra point. So disappointing for them. But also, this game, absolutely right. Ole Miss with that gave them a huge advantage for sure in this game. I was worried though. Georgia had a chance, and back to the play calling. I'm looking now. They had a 1st and goal from the Ole Miss 8-yard line with 1:08 to go. All they had to do was punch it in, and there's very questionable calls there. And then they have to settle for 3. And when that happened, I did feel like Ole Miss was going to find a way to go down here and win the game, and that's exactly what they did. So a lot of questionable calls, but definitely an instant classic as far as the playoff goes.
Yeah, definitely some questionable calls. And shout out the people on the stage that were that end of game was crazy. And they moved the stage on the field. The confetti was going, then they had to move it back off. They did it again, had to move it back off. So shout out those workers that were pushing that stage. That was hilarious at the end of the game.
That was great. Good remembrance there to bring that up. All right, Paisley. Well, that's our quarterfinal recap. Appreciate everyone listening out there. We're going to hop into some of our winners and losers here of the playoffs so far, and then we're going to do a quick preview of the 2 remaining games. Paisley, I'll let you kick it off. I'll let you decide, winner or loser, whatever you want to start with first, and then I'll go second here.
We'll start off with the losers case, and I'm going to pick one, maybe an obvious one, but I'm going to go the previous head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels, Lane Kiffin, as my loser of the playoffs so far. Kind of rooting for Ole Miss just to keep it rolling. Just if they would win a national title, that'd be funny. And I get it. We talked about it. He had to leave to go to LSU early and stuff, but it's just very funny that he left the team to go win a national title, and the team he left now has a great chance to win a national title, almost like the Brian Kelly to LSU. So, it's very funny. I love just seeing that. And I think it honestly was. I don't think nobody thought Ole Miss would win this game against Georgia, because now you're seeing some of the coaches, and now Lane Kiffin's like, well, we kind of signed a contract that they should be back at this time, like before the new year. And it's like, I think everybody, even at Ole Miss now, is like, or at LSU is like, no, there's no way they're going to win. Yeah, let the coaches go back. Yeah, let them go back. They're not going to go too far. And then now they are. So it's just a funny predicament what's going on. You got to let them finish. You got to let the coaches go. But I know Lane Kiffin's getting some checks still from winning these games, so I guess he's winning a little bit there. But I think this is just a meme in of itself, just very funny if Ole Miss could keep going, even just as far as they went to get to a Final Four. We'll see if Lane Kiffin could even get there in his tenure at LSU. But very funny that he left the team to go win a national title, and that team he left might win it in the weeks leading after he left that team. So loser of the playoffs so far for me, Lane Kiffin.
That's a great pick there. That was crossing my mind kind of, and how we slot him in this. But yeah, great pick. I wonder what's going through his head right now, especially if Ole Miss were to actually win the national title. And like we said, it is a wide open path right now. There could be a very well this scenario where they find a way, and then if LSU doesn't, in a couple of years, and but this could be an all time moment that we look back on in history. Who knows? Has to play out, but it's a great loser so far. My pick is the Texas A&M Aggies being my loser of the college football playoff. It's kind of obvious why. I mean, they're number 3 in the country, 11-0. Everybody online that I saw thought this was different. This was different for A&M. The offense was different. They were winning all these games. They were finally going to win the SEC. Well, not only did they, miss the SEC championship, they just come out flat, lose to Miami in the playoff at home, nothing to show for. And that just goes to show how, high you could be and then how quickly things could turn south and just kind of out all the other teams. And I thought about saying Alabama in this sort of situation, but at least Alabama was kind of playing with house money. I mean, they were very lucky to be there. There was a lot of rumors around them. They lost a couple of games, like they got killed in the SEC title game. So I couldn't deservedly say they're the loser of the playoff, despite getting absolutely dismantled in the Rose Bowl. It's got to be A&M. They what great season could have been. Turns out they really just won nothing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point with some of these teams like Ohio State, Texas A&M that didn't lose a game, whereas crushing it all season. Everyone's thinking, oh my God, we're going to win the national championship, and then in a couple weeks go 0-2 or 0-1 in some cases. With Texas A&M even losing that Texas game late in the season, it's like went from really high highs to just a steep cliff drop off. So yeah, it's a good shot for Texas A&M. Definitely had some higher expectations and fell way short at home to lose first round. Very, very embarrassing. So I agree with that one. And I'll let you go first case for the winner since I went first for the loser. So you could go next.
Very, very fair, Paisley. I didn't really think outside the box here. So if you did, then you might be in good shape. But the winner's got to be the Hoosiers. I'm Indiana. I mean, they're the clear. I don't know what else to say. They shouldn't. They're Indiana. They're the most losing program of all time. I took the low-hanging fruit here. They've dominated everybody. They just blew out Alabama, who's been bullying everybody in college football for 10 years. Like the script almost can't write any better. And it feels like it's really crazy to say that, but this is the team with the worst winning percentage as a Power 4, Power 5 program. Like this is insanity. We're living in insanity right now. And they got to be the winner. I mean, what else can I say? They've winning every game. They're undefeated. And they're at top of college football, number 1 in the country. Are they done? No, they could very well screw this thing up, but they have just as or better a fair shot than anyone does right now.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how bad Indiana was like forever. Like there's some teams like even Alabama, right. You go back, okay, they were great with Bear Bryant, then they were really bad before Saban got there. It was like really bad, and then they got really good again. A lot of teams have good highs, lows, like even Notre Dame, Penn State, our fan base is like good highs, good, like really bad lows. Indiana has been bad for like ever, like for 80 years, 90 years since they started the program. So that just makes it even more impressive. That's a great pick case. And I'm going to shout out an honorable mention. I'm not going to go with it, but I did have the James Madison spread backers. If you had James Madison plus the points in that game, just a shout out for that because I feel like that was a bright spot for the G5 there. But my true one, the quarterback we just talked about, I'm going to go Trinidad Chambliss. Great story there. Coming from D2, and a lot of people don't realize too, because it was so far back. He wasn't even the starter to start the year. They were starting that Austin Simmons over him, the lefty. He got injured, and then Chambliss got the start. They started playing hot with him. They kind of just let it ride from there. So going from D2 to working your way up to the SEC, second string, being patient, not just, going where he was going to start and stuff and really waiting his time. It's just a good feel-good story and a really cool story. Some great storylines here going in with the last 4 teams. But if he could pull this off and get another win and go to the national title, that just gives a lot of hope to people out there in Division 2, 3 looking to move up and stuff like that. And he's undersized, but he was honestly the best quarterback I've seen in a game all season. And he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks, I think, this year, and his draft stock's going up. So I'm really excited to see him going up against this Miami defense. But huge shout out to Chambliss. It's just a cool story. And that was a huge, huge victory against Georgia a couple days ago.
Yeah, no, he looked great, and forever at this point, especially him coming back. I mean, he's cemented himself as an Ole Miss legend, and just even that, even if the NFL it didn't work out, I mean, if you could win there, I mean, he'll be able to go back to Oxford when he's 50, 60 years old and drinking for free at the bar probably all night. So now, if he could win this game, he could probably go anywhere around the country, but. Yeah, he's been very impressive, especially in the playoff. If he was a little under the radar during the season, now people know. That being said, we'll wrap up here. We're going to do a quick preview on these final games. We got the Fiesta Bowl on Thursday night. We got the Peach Bowl on Friday night. We'll start on Thursday. Miami, Indiana. Going to be an interesting matchup. Indiana, I think everybody is kind of expecting them. It's Miami Ole Miss, not Miami Indiana.
Yeah,
Miami Ole Miss. Miami Indiana, I was going to say Indiana should be probably a 10, 15 point favorite. I'm looking at the spread and I see Miami -3. And I'm like, I'm like, what's going on here? Miami Ole Miss, 3-point spread. Miami is the favorite, which is crazy to think that they are in the driver's seat essentially to show up in a national championship. Ole Miss, the question is, could they stay hot? How's this Miami defense going to look? I think that's going to be probably the matchup to watch, is Ole Miss offense versus this Miami defense. That might be where the game's decided. Two teams, different paths. I mean, Ole Miss 13-1. Miami, of course, had the 2 bad losses and get hot kind of just as the playoff goes on. People didn't expect these teams to be here, and one of them is going to be playing for a national championship. So a rare matchup. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm curious to see the all-time, matchups with these two teams. It can't be many. Kind of a strange matchup, ACC, SEC here. But interested to hear your thoughts, Paisley. Who is going to show a national championship? Could Ole Miss continue this offensive domination that they did against Georgia here against a pretty elite Miami defense?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with both these games, Case. I'm just not really confident in any picks, really, but still going to give some out. Obviously, got some leans or got some stuff I'm going to play, but just not really chomping at the bit. Like, I had some very strong convictions for the second round, even the first round, but I'm just having a hard time, Case, digesting these games, and I'm just not sure because I feel like it's so tight. These two teams are so red hot right now on both sides. One side of the ball, the Ole Miss offense is cooking. Miami defense is also cooking, so that's going to be a great matchup to watch. But I tend to lean. My favorite play in the game is going to be the under, I think. Under 52, 51. I'll take it above that key. I just trust Miami to keep this Ole Miss attack down enough for a little bit. I don't think they're going to explode like they did against Georgia. Was it sustainable? That's my only thing with Trinette Chambliss. Just talk about how great he was playing. He was on an absolute heater, and it was great. And almost like I remember back to Michael Penix a couple of years ago in Washington, where he was just placing balls and spots and just looking so good. But then when he went up against Michigan and a great defense, it wasn't the same thing, and it wasn't as easy. So I'm just seeing Chambliss does a great job scrambling around. He doesn't get sacked a lot. But I think he's going to be under tremendous pressure. I think you're going to see a lot of balls batted down. I just don't know if they're going to be able to operate at that speed and that pace that they want to operate, like they did against Georgia and some of these other teams. Now, they did face a good defense in Oklahoma earlier in the year and was moving the ball fantastically. Now you still don't have Lane Kiffin. Didn't really seem to matter last game. Will it show up here? I don't know. So that side of the ball, I do tend to lean with Miami's defense. I hate to say it. So I do think they have a slight edge there, but because Chambliss was making some of these plays, but it was very like out of script, out of pocket, just kind of using his athleticism. Not to say Georgia doesn't have athletes, but I feel like Miami could maybe game plan a little bit more around that, really try and keep them in the pocket. I feel like their secondary is a lot better than Georgia's here. So I kind of see Ole Miss scoring maybe 17-21 in that range. I think it'll be close to the total, but I think it'll stay under this number. And then on the other side of the ball, I do think the Ole Miss defense still has a lot of holes. I thought they played well enough in that Georgia game. At times, they really did impress me with their run defense at times. Their tackling was good. I thought they were playing with a lot of speed. But now you're going to face a whole different offense here, very run heavy. I just feel like the matchup's really good for Miami here. Hate to say it because I really do hate Miami and trying to fade them. But I just think if they could slow down Ohio State's offense and what they wanted to do, I think they could kind of do the same here to Ole Miss. And then I think they're going to have a lot easier test than the Ohio State defense that they just faced. Now you go up against an Ole Miss defense that is definitely very leaky. I think around 50, 60th in the country. So very middle of the pack. So I think that'll be a breath of fresh air. So I think Miami does enough here, kind of sense in like a 21-17, 24-17 victory. So I'll be leaning Miami minus the 3, hopefully 3 flat. If a 2.5 shows, I'll definitely take that. Might look to moneyline piece them with something else. But I hate to do a case, but I'm going to be on Miami here probably, and the under as my favorite play. But don't really love anything in this game, or nothing really like that I'm really grasping and holding on to or love dearly here.
We've been pretty successful too on the over unders here. It's true. Really throughout the season, you've done a pretty good record on them, and even in the playoffs. So that's good. I would also lean probably with the under. And I have good news for you and the rest of our great audience out there. I'm going to lean Ole Miss here. I think Ole Miss is going to find a way to get the win. I think it's going to happen. Am I very confident? No. This is just a gut feeling. Look, Miami. How they looked against Louisville, how they looked against SMU, like these are pretty bad teams. Like they're I don't want to say horrible, but they're not great. They're not good. Like they're average at best type of teams. I mean, Ole Miss has been impressive really throughout the year. They've showed a lot of signs of defensive fallout, and that was kind of their main concern of why we thought they really couldn't get here or win a national championship. But the path kind of opened up where if these teams were playing in like September or October, I'm trying to think if I saw this matchup, like where would my thoughts be? And I think I just lean Ole Miss in all those situations. So I'm just kind of going to put that thought and make it a college football semifinal game. I know the stakes are higher. I know Miami, is the slight favorite here, but Ole Miss has been pretty magical so far. I think they are motivated. I think they're a motivated group. I think both these teams probably are at this point, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Ole Miss. I think they're going to find a way to win. Malachi Tony on Miami, get player to watch. I think that he's been exciting all year. We're waiting for that, could be just extraordinary breakout game. It could happen in one of these, moments to be the reason why they get it done. If Miami could score some points, I think they'll be in the driver's seat. But I think Ole Miss is going to surprise people. I think they're going to come out and find a way to win. Also, quick knock once again on these ticket prices, only $44 right now to go watch the Fiesta Bowl. I don't know. I guess both these fan bases are, well, A, maybe they thought they were going to lose in the previous round, so they spent their money to go to that game, or B, are expecting to go to the national championship. So not sure that how much longer we're going to, especially if we expand, if we're going to continue to play 3 or 4 games all across the country for these fan bases. I think maybe we'll see an NFL type of model adopted soon. But anyway, all that being said, I'm leaning the Rebels.
Yeah, these have to be hurting the ticket prices and everything, the revenue that they're making, because this is insane for a semifinal game. Yeah. And Ole Miss's defense has played better the last couple of games. Look at some of their scores here, but it's going to be interesting. That's where these margins are so thin. I could see Ole Miss having success here and scoring a lot of points, or I could see them not being able to stop Miami. But then I could see a low-scoring game where Miami's offense is so broken and it's not great and they can't pass the ball. So that is a worry that does worry me, laying a little bit of points with Miami. But then I could see Miami just really shutting down Ole Miss here, and Ole Miss not seeing a defense like this or this caliber maybe all season. So this is why it's fascinating. That's why it's the playoffs here, and it's going to be fun. But in case I can't kill this Miami team, so I'm just going to try and join them, I guess. I tried to kill them last 2 games, and I was hoping Georgia won because I would have been laying a lot with Georgia going up against Miami here in the Carson Beck revenge game. But I think it's just once Ole Miss won, I was like, shoot, this is a good matchup for Miami. I think they're going to the national title. I hate to say it.
That's going to be nuts because I would never have bet anything for Miami to get there. to actually have a chance to win would absolutely be stunning. All right, moving on. We got the Peach Bowl. This is Indiana. I was too excited to talk about the Hoosiers. The jump the gun on them. We got the rematch. Game was played in Autzen a couple of months ago. Everybody picked against Indiana, Paisley, including me. I picked against them. I also picked against them against Ohio State. I also picked against them a week ago against Alabama. So I might as well just say I am picking against them again. Oregon. Wow. With 3.5. I figured I'd just go out there quick and just say that, and we could talk about it now. But it's going to be an exciting game. I think I'm more excited about this one than the other one, really, just because the Big Ten. And I think it's a very good matchup. It's a rematch game. Indiana's having their best season in the history of the universe. Dante Moore versus Fernando Mendoza. I mean, it's going to be a very cool setting. Indiana is a slight favorite. I think opened up as -4. It's now 3.5 on ESPN, but going to be a fun matchup. Over under is 46.5. And interested in your thoughts here. Paisley, Oregon, Indiana, the rematch winner goes to the national championship.
Yeah, you're just fading Indiana. So you're hyping them up in the winners and losers and talking about them and then just going right against them. But Case, I will be agreeing with you here, actually, too. I'm going to stick with my Duckies. I do have a future on them, which I'm hoping they just win this just because of that, too. But tough matchup here. I think it's going to be super close, super tight. These teams are very evenly matched, I think. And, we were wrong last week on Indiana, but that was just such a steamroll. I do not see the same steamroll type of game here. I think it's going to be a lot closer. Indiana's going to have to have some pressure situations here. Oregon's been playing with it all year. And I think, like we saw with Ole Miss and Georgia last week, I think the team that loses being a team a second time is very difficult, especially in football. So I think Oregon is going to come in here motivated. Obviously, Indiana's going to be motivated too, but I think they're going to realize what they did wrong in that first matchup. Look to get off. They couldn't really get the run game going the way they really wanted to. Indiana does have some injuries on the defensive line that Alabama just could not exploit. They had no run game at all. They didn't even try and run it, and then once they got down, they couldn't run it. So if Oregon keep this close, if their run game could get going, that's going to be the key case. If they do have to drop back and pass it a ton of times with Dante Moore, that's where they get into trouble, and that's what happened in the Indiana game the first time around in Autzen Stadium. So if they could run the ball and they're chunking for 4 or 5 yards a clip on the ground, I think Oregon's live here, and I think they could really win this game outright. If not, that's where it's going to be tough. But I think Oregon's defense is playing a lot better. Take out that JMU score. I just think the late scoring there and stuff, they looked really impressive against Texas Tech. I know they weren't a great offense, but I think they're playing at a higher level. They have to stop the run as well. It's the old cliche, like, who could stop the run, who's going to win this game. But I think Indiana wants to run it. Oregon wants to run it. If both teams can't, that's not where they really operate at their highest level. So in this one, I've been toying with the over-under. I kind of like the under initially, but then I could also see the over a little bit. So I'm just going to stay away completely from that. But I'll be taking the Ducks plus 3.5 here. Was 3.5, went up to 4.5 actually, and then just got bought back a little bit today and yesterday. So lines moving around a little bit. I don't think it'll go below 3 or 2.5. So I think 3.5 is probably a good number to settle. But I'll be on the underdog here, Case. I think it's a very close game, and I think Oregon either loses a tight one or they win this game outright. I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon gets it done here because, like you said, everybody and their mother is on Indiana now. They just blew out Alabama. Everyone's going to want to back them here, but I think the Ducks are kind of waiting in the weeds here a little bit, and they've been playing some good football lately. Love Dante Moore. Love Mendoza, too. He's a good quarterback, but I think Oregon, they're getting healthier now. I think it's going to be a different matchup. I think they're going to play the first time. So I'd expect here maybe a little upset happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of in similar thoughts here, which is probably not a great thing for how the playoffs gone so far. But yeah, it's really for all those reasons, and I think I hope it's a thrilling game. I hope it's not one of these one-sided, semifinal games where Indiana or even Oregon, for that matter, was able to pull away. I want to see a thriller. I want to see an instant classic. Two teams I don't think have ever won a national championship either, so they're both kind of playing for that. I mean, factor in them, which is crazy to think, but well, not crazy for Indiana, but for Oregon, I guess. But no, it's going to be fun. I think the quarterback play is what it could come down to. Who plays a clean game, no turnovers, and is able to just control the game that way. No mistakes, don't get too fancy. But on paper, it seems like Indiana should win this game just off of how they've been playing. So it could be surprising that they're only 3-4 point spread. I mean, if you look, it's actually funny. I don't really take it seriously, but sometimes I look at the ESPN analytics predictor and to see what that shows versus what the Vegas odds are showing, and it is heavily on Indiana, 71-29, which take it for what it's worth. But sometimes when you see those analytics, which who knows what analytics they're using, and then you look at the spread, it's like 6.5 or 7.5 or 8. So it's interesting to see that maybe, Indiana should be even more of a favorite, but it's kind of just their name holding it back. I don't know, but it's going to be, I have to pick against them. I've picked against them all year. And if there's any Indiana fans listening out there, which I'm not sure, but if there is, you should be happy. You should be happy that I'm picking against Indiana, because every time I pick against Indiana, they end up winning. So also, Paisley, I do not want Indiana to win the national championship. I'm going to say that just out loud, put that out in the world. And it'd be a disservice to me, just as a Penn State fan, the frustration of trying to get there for many years, and then Indiana just comes out of left field and just decides to become an elite football program. Like I'm just turning on a microwave type of thing, like just instantaneous. So that bugs me a little bit. I get why it won't to the average person, but when you play them every year, it used to be a nice little auto win. It used to be a nice little bye week. Not anymore. So a little disappointment with that, but I like the story. I can't wait to watch the 30 for 30 in a couple of years. I really can't, but I'm sticking with Oregon.
No, that's fair. I know it is very frustrating, and if they just do it in this season and just dominate through, it's like, why can't everybody do that? So I think it's just a different beast here this game. I think Alabama just had so many problems, and it was a bad matchup looking back on it. And Indiana dominated. I think it's going to be a little stiffer test here. And in some of these games, the way the playoffs been going, when everybody's on one team and like, oh, there's no way, they're so hot, everyone loves them. Usually that's where they slip up. That's what people thought of Georgia last week and even Ohio State. So dogs were barking a little bit last week. Let's see if they could do it here. But I think we also, too, last point, Case, I think we both had Oregon in the championship in our pre-playoff bracket predictor there. So I was expecting this matchup. So I'm going to try and stay true to it, even though Indiana looked very impressive last week. But I do think Oregon finds themselves maybe in the championship game.
It's a good point. We were on Oregon, I think, earlier than most people. And it's funny to say they're actually under the radar right now because they're just drowning out by but because Miami up to Ohio State, they have all the attention down there. You got Indiana, the story of the year, they got all that hype, and you got Ole Miss with the upset. It's like everybody's talking about all these teams. Nobody seems to really be talking about Oregon that much. Some people are, at the PB Betting podcast but not the average person. Doesn't seem. All right. Well, with that being said, we will wrap things up. I don't know what the schedule's like for the remainder of the season for us. We'll probably come back once next week, I'd say at some point, maybe midweek, probably about a week from when this is posted, and we'll be doing a similar recap of what we just saw, and then maybe a preview of the national championship. That might be, 9-10 days before the national championship. So maybe we'll push it to next week, and we'll post on our PB betting page on Twitter, and then we'll do one probably final episode right after the national championship, maybe that week or that day, just talking about the results, and maybe give some honorable winners and loser awards out for the season. That's always fun. And we will be back next week recapping everything we just saw. Take care.